The Bible tells us that Jesus is our king. And as our king, he has conquered our enemies. He's destroyed our enemies. And he rules us and defends us and cares for us. We need the prophet, we need the priest, we need the king, and we needed them in Jesus Christ. And he was all three. And what does that do? He saves us from our sins. Let me break it down this way. The other night I was reading to my daughter Eva Snow White right before bedtime. Not advisable, by the way. That woman was scary. They've kind of toned down the scariness in Disney movies now. It's dark back then. So I'm reading her the movie. She picked it, so it's her fault. And we're reading this story. You know the story of Snow White. And I do voices when I'm reading the books just to kind of pass the time for me too as well, to make it interesting for me. And eventually I really get into it. So I'm doing Snow White's voice, and I'm doing the witch's voice, and I'm kind of just and as I'm doing the voices, more and more the kids are gathering around us. And in my house, that's a lot of kids. So I have my Sunday school class sitting there. And I'm reading Snow White, and Eva's laying next to me, and we're going through each page by page, and the story's intensifying. If you know the story of Snow White, eventually the witch goes out to Snow White's house, has her bite an apple with poison in it, and she dies. She closes her eyes, they can't wake her up, and they put her on what is basically a funeral bed. And so they have the pictures in the book of Snow White sitting on this funeral bed. And I got to that point, and Eva starts going, "Turn the page, Daddy, turn the page, turn the page." I'm like, no, I'm not done reading, I'm not done my voices. And I'm reading the story to her. Snow White's laying there, her eyes are closed, she's dead. "Turn the page, Daddy," and she's getting more panicked. "Turn the page." Why did Eva want me to turn the page? I didn't know. This is the first time I ever read the book. I turn the page. Who shows up next? The prince. And she looks at me. "Daddy, you're my prince." And that's not even the point of the story, but it was awesome. "You're my prince." And the prince kisses Snow White, wakes up Snow White, and the pictures are showing this glorious picture. And I'll be honest with you, I was getting a little choked up at this point, but not because of Snow White, but because I was thinking literally about Jesus. Isn't that what we want? Isn't it what you want? You want to turn the page on the grief and on the abandonment. You want to turn the page on the ugliness and on death. You want to turn the page on the stress and the hatred and the wars and the sin in this world, and you want to open it up and you want to see Jesus riding on his white horse coming to rescue the world. It's built into us. That's why those stories matter so much. Jesus came as our king, our rescuer. We want a king that makes it right. He makes it all right. That is the message of the angel. Fear not, the king has come to make it right.